Hare Krishna. Somebody can please lead the invocation prayers.
Hare Krishna. Om Anya.
Unmute yourself and then please start the prayers again.
Sorry. Hare Krishna. Om Anyana Timirandasya Yananjana Chalakya Sakshi Anmilatam Yana Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahakim Tada Diswa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Bhata Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnava Samcha Sri Rupam Sagarajitam Sagana Raghunatha Vidam Jeevam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Param Sagagana Lalita Sri Vishakhamita He Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpade Gopisa Gopikanta Radhakanta Namostade Tapta Kanchana Guruangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustude Devi Pranamami Hariye Priye Vachakalpatarubhyarcha Kripa Chindu Ivacha Patitana Pavane Vayo Vaishnava Vayo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurav Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. So today we will cover Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28. We'll aim to cover the first 33 verses. So the context and the recap, we haven't had classes for a few weeks, so we'll try to run through the previous few chapters of this unit to get the context and recap as to where we are. The context and the recap is that Canto 3 is titled The Status Quo. This Unit 13 covers chapters 25 to 29. Unit 13 is titled Kapila Siksha Part 1. In these chapters 25 up to the end of Canto 3 to chapter 33 are Kapila Siksha, in which Lord Kapila speaks devotional Sankhya to the whole world. Lord Kapila is Krishna himself, Bhagwan, in the category of Vishnu Tattva. These last chapters of 25 to 33 are a little heavy and complex philosophy. So we have studied earlier that Kardama Muni and Devahuti are the parents of Lord Kapila. Kardama Muni is the ideal Grahastha life example. And Kardama Muni followed orders of Brahmaji nicely. Kardama Muni first followed Brahmacharya ashram, then followed Grahastha. He begot the ideal son, Lord Kapila, and then Kardama Muni left to set an example for Vanaprastha life. So Lord Kapila appeared for teaching transcendental devotional Sankhya to teach the process of devotional service. Chapter 25 is titled The Glories of Devotional Service. In chapter 25, Lord Kapila explained the general symptoms of devotional service. Lord Kapila spoke about the characteristics of bhakti and especially about the association of devotees, because association of devotees opens the doors of bhakti, and attachment to Krishna or Krishna's devotees leads to liberation. The ornamental qualities of a devotee are described such as tolerance, merciful, peaceful, and this way devotees are glorified. And the primary characteristics of a devotee is that he engages in staunch devotional service. So devotee asked a question that what kind of bhakti should I perform to easily attain your lotus feet? And the answer given is that bhakti beyond the modes is the bhakti suitable to attain Lord's lotus feet. Therefore, Lord Kapila explains devotional Sankhya. Basic Sankhya is analytical study of matter and elements. In devotional Sankhya, besides the analytical study of Sankhya, one more thing we study is Purusha and Prakriti and their relationship. So Lord is Purusha, the enjoyer, and Prakriti is the enjoyed. Then chapter 26 is titled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Devotees, question number 3 gets answered in chapter 26 and 27. Devotees, question number 3 is explain jnana, by which one understands the tattva. So in chapter 26, Lord Kapila explained the manifestation and characteristics of elements such as Mahatattva, universal form, composed of elements and universal form being brought to life by entrance of the Lord. In chapter 26, different principles of material nature and Bhakti Mishra Yoga, Bhakti Mishra Jnana and are explained, and after doing a comparison, it establishes the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga. Since we are engrossed with material nature for a long time, therefore, for our smooth execution of devotional service, we should also understand material nature, because we are situated on the platform of material energy for a very long time. So this is Sankhya. What is the nature of material world? What are the components of material energy? And how they act upon the conditioned souls. All this is study of Sankhya. So there are two things to understand in Sankhya. The science by which the jiva got the condition to material energy and the need for jiva to get liberated. Then jiva understands the need for devotional service and goal of devotional service. And then the second point is that jiva knows about the Supreme Lord and the process of devotional service. He knows about the inferior material nature. By knowing everything, naturally jiva gets liberated from the clutches of material energy. In chapter 26, Lord Kapila explained the manifestation and characteristics of elements such as Mahatattva, the universal form composed of various elements and universal form brought to life. Then in chapter 27 is titled Understanding Material Nature. In chapter 27, Lord Kapila describes Bhakti Mishra Jnana, the conditioned jiva and the liberated jiva. The transcendental jiva becomes absorbed in gunas and bewildered by false ego, resulting in transmigration and having the doer mentality. A neophyte does not have full support of Bhakti Yoga. He is not pure yet. Therefore, a sadhaka needs help from Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga to some extent. And some elements of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga are needed for a neophyte devotee on the Bhakti Park as well. So in chapter 27, the Gyan Yoga was described. And in chapter 28, which we'll cover today, the Ashtanga Yoga is described. So chapter 28 is titled Kapila's Instructions on Execution of Devotional Service. Chapter 20 is divided in 5 parts. Part 1, verses 1 to 12. Limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Part 2, verses 13 to 18. Description of Lord's form for performing dharana. Part 3, verses 19 to 33. Dhyana, meditation on individual limbs of the Lord. Part 4, verses 34 to 38. Liberation of yogi and his state of mind. Shivangi.
Prabhuji, can you please repeat the parts again?
Okay, I will repeat all parts. Part 1 is verses 1 to 12. Limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. Part 2, verses 13 to 18. Description of Lord's form for performing dharana. Part 3, verses 19 to 33. Dhyana, meditation on individual limbs of the Lord. Part 4, verses 34 to 38. Liberation of yogi and his state of mind. Part 5, verses 39 to 44. Thought process of the yogi. Everybody on the same page up to now? Everybody got all the parts?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in 3.25.29, Devahuti asked question number 4. Question number 4 is, explain the yoga aimed at the Lord for liberation. How many limbs does it have? So Lord Kapila answers this Devahuti's question number 4 here in this chapter 28 by explaining the process of Ashtanga Yoga. The object of yoga is not achievement of some mystic perfections. So here yoga means Ashtanga Yoga. That the object of Ashtanga Yoga is not achievement of mystic perfections. Rather, the object is to concentrate on Krishna or Supreme Lord. This is explained in chapter 28. This chapter 28 is slightly straightforward chapter and a practice chapter for all of you. We'll soon discuss. Shivangi, verse 1 translation and paragraph purport 1 first paragraph.
Hare Krishna. The personality of Godhead said, My dear mother, O daughter of the king, now I shall explain to you the system of yoga, the object of which is to concentrate the mind. By practicing the system, one can become joyful and progressively advance towards the path of the absolute truth. Purport. The yoga process explained by Lord Kapila Deva in this chapter is authorized and standard, and therefore these instructions should be followed very carefully. To begin, the Lord says that by yoga practice, one can make progress towards understanding the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the previous chapter, it has been clearly stated that the desired result of yoga is not to achieve some wonderful mystic power. One should not be at all attracted by such mystic power, but should attain progressive realization on the path of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, which states in the last verse of the 6th chapter that the greatest yogi is he who constantly thinks of Krishna within himself, or he who is Krishna conscious.
So Lord Kapila says, I will describe Bhakti Mishra Ashtang Yoga, the object of which is to concentrate the mind, and by following this process, the mind attains joyful spiritual path. And what we have discussed so far, Srila Prabhupada summarizes in the purport that we just read. So you may all wonder that why discuss Ashtanga Yoga when we know that Ashtanga Yoga is not the recommended process for Kali Yuga. So we'll soon discuss, and it's a upcoming practice for you all, that the important difference here is that Ashtanga Yoga is generally meant for trying to attain some mystic siddhis. Yes, they can also focus on to attain liberation of one kind. But here the purpose is to focus the mind on the Lord. So that's a key difference. And that's why it's described here, and we'll soon discuss that. What we have also discussed in Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, that portions of Ashtanga Yoga in chapter 6 Bhagavad Gita, we use certain components to practice while practicing our Bhakti Yoga sadhana. Similarly, one of the important point about focusing on the Lord or remembering the Lord is a very big exercise in this chapter that we will be all doing by ourselves. Everybody on the same page?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just had one small doubt. When you say that it's Bhakti Mishra is what is Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Mishra Yoga. You're calling it Bhakti Mishra because it's not directly Bhakti. It's like, doing yoga, but focusing on the Lord. Is that why it's called Mishra, Prabhu, is added?
Mishra is mixed bhakti, that it's you are not at pure devotional level, or you are not at pure bhakti. You are starting with some other yoga process, and then you are adding bhakti, as well as that level of bhakti is less than 50%. Therefore, the word Mishra is used. Mishra means mixed.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Chandra Aunty has a question.
The same thing I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Why Mishra?
So you will remember from Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 on Ashtanga Yoga that there are 8 stages. Anybody remembers? What are the 8 stages in Ashtanga Yoga? Look up. Starts with
Prabhu,
Yama
yeah.
Niyam.
It was there in the purport when I was reading, Prabhu.
Explain, yeah. You can,
Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi.
Okay, very good. Correct points. Right. These are the 8 stages of Ashtanga Yoga. That Yama means don't. Don't do things such as you follow regulator principles, meaning don't intoxicate, don't eat meat, don't enter in illicit relation, don't gamble. These are Yama. And then Niyam means do's. That chant 16 rounds. Regulate yourself. Wake up early. Then asana, that you sit in a particular position which helps in your sadhana so that the consciousness moves inwards. Pranayam is the purpose of regulating your breathing is to calm down the mind. Then pratyahar is that we don't feed the senses, that you starve the senses. Dhyana is meditate on Vishnu. Dharana is control or fixed mind in absorption. And samadhi is complete absorption. So here in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, the same 8 stages are described. So verses 2 to 4 is on Yama and Niyam. Shalini, 2 to 4 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 2. One should execute his prescribed duties to the best of his abilities and avoid performing duties not allotted to him. One should be satisfied with as much gain as he achieves by the grace of the Lord, and should worship the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Text 3. One should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. One should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that he can achieve the highest perfection of life. Text 4. One should practice non-violence and truthfulness, should avoid thieving, and be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. He should abstain from sex life, perform austerity, be clean, study the Vedas, and worship the supreme form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
So in these verses, there are 18 points explained. There's not detail, but in terms of listing. So I will list all of them. You can write down, I will go slow. But again, it's just a directly coming from the verses. So first is execute prescribed duties to the best of abilities. Second, avoid performing duties not allotted. Third, satisfied with what is achieved by Lord's grace. Fourth, worshipping the lotus feet of spiritual master. Fifth, cessation of conventional religious practices. Sixth, attracted to those practices that lead to salvation. 7, eating very frugally. 8, always remaining in a secluded place. 9, non-violence. 10, truthfulness. 11, refraining from theft. 12, possessing only whatever is necessary. 13, celibacy. 14, austerities. 15, cleanliness. 16, study of Vedas. 17, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And 18, silence. So in the beginning, the so-called followers of Ashtanga Yoga, they get attached to Dharma, Artha, Kama. But one should elevate to get attracted to moksha and prema. Should give up basic Dharma, Artha, Kama, Pravarti Marg. Everybody on the same page?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. From this, many of the points are for us also, Prabhu.
Yeah, you are correct. So why Lord Kapila is explaining Ashtanga Yoga is because at the start of Bhakti Yoga, a sadhaka needs help from Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So we discussed this in the previous chapter as to why Jnana Yoga is explained. Because sadhaka is not at the pure level. Bhakti Yoga sadhaka is not at pure level. He therefore needs help from elements of Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So what Shalini described, now this verses, first 4 verses is pure Ashtanga Yoga. But you can definitely use many of the points for yourself. And more importantly, the upcoming verses are very much direct for you all as Bhakti Yogis. Shalini, everybody?
Yes, Prabhu, I just had one more follow-up. So, Prabhu, the Ashtanga Yoga is not just directly going and sitting, meditating in a secluded place, doing all the, doing all the pranayam related things. So he also starts like this, Prabhu, and then goes there, reaches that state.
Yeah, there will be a gradual progression for everyone. Ashtanga Yoga is very difficult. So they start somewhere. And this is actually described in, which canto is Dhruv Maharaj? I think canto 5. Dhruv Maharaj is the perfect example for Ashtanga Yoga, that Ashtanga Yogi starts by normal, when they start, they eat normally. And then they reduce eating, that every few days they eat, then they keep reducing, then they only survive on water, And even water they take once every few months. So they keep reducing. So it's a gradual process. Even those who follow Ashtanga Yoga, even in Satyug, Kali Yuga, Ashtanga Yoga is impossible. Prabhupada will say in one of the verses upcoming. So even in Satyug, those who follow Ashtanga Yoga, even for them it's a gradual process of reducing the intake of food and water little by little. Shall I?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Got it.
Okay. So verse 5. Yeah, go ahead, Uncle.
The first four, would you please repeat again in a lower pace, please? I missed some words.
You mean the 18
Out of
points?
18. Out of 18 points, first four.
So tell me which point you miss. I can repeat those instead of repeating all 18.
No, I want only first four. I have written, but I missed
Okay.
some words.
Okay, first four. Okay, I will explain. So in these verses 2 to 4, 18 points are explained. I'll repeat the first four. First one is execute prescribed duties to the best of abilities.
Yes,
Second, avoid performing duties not allotted. Third, satisfied with what is achieved by Lord's grace. Fourth, worshipping the lotus feet of spiritual master.
got it, Prabhuji.
All right. Okay, so verse 5 briefly describes asana, prayanam, pratyahar. Verse 6 briefly describes dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Verse 7 states the important point, which we already discussed. The important point is that all these processes, one has to fix the mind on the Lord, and these processes are not to get mystic siddhis. And verse 8 onwards, these same stages described in verse 5 and 6 are then further described. So they kind of are lumped verses instead of individual verses, but we'll take few of them and read them. Mother Jija, verse 5, 6, and 7 translations.
Text 5. One must observe silence, acquire steadiness by practicing different yogic postures, control the breathing of the vital air, withdraw the senses from sense objects, and thus concentrate the mind on the heart. Text 6. Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Samadhi or Samadhana of the mind. Text 7 translation. By these processes, one or any other true process, one must control the contaminated, unbridled mind, which is always attracted by material enjoyment, and thus fix himself in the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
So verse 5 explained asana, that attains steadiness by mastering correct sitting postures. Then pranayam is the controlling of the breathing of the vital air. Pratyahar is withdrawing the senses from material objects. concentrate mind in the heart. Then verse 6 explains dharana is fixing the prana at one spot among the various chakras by the mind. Dhyana is meditating on the limbs of the Lord. And samadhi is the state of minds being virtually absorbed in the Lord. Verse 7 says, the reason for all these processes is to fix the mind on the Lord. Everybody on the same page?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I had another question, Prabhu. So if so much everything and ultimately the absorption is on the Lord, then how is this Mishra yoga, Prabhu? How is bhakti not there fully, 100%?
Yeah, so even if one is absorbing on the Lord, what is the goal? You have to understand that also. So if my goal is to attain something else than devotional service to the Lord, then my bhakti is not pure. My bhakti is Mishra. What you are observing, that so much endeavor, is because we have discussed multiple times. Brahmaji says the only gain of Gyan Yoga is pain, and Gyan Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga are overlapping. So they put so much endeavor, already from the first few verses, it's obvious, but their only gain is pain because their goal is not devotional service. Their goal is not Bhagwan. Either attain mystic yoga, mystic siddhis, or attain Paramatma realization, or at least attain release from the material miseries. But that is not pure devotion. Shalini?
Yes, Prabhu. No, I'm just wondering, like, I mean, is mystic yoga and all that more important than actual liberation or serving the Lord? So it's just,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
and not everybody has this understanding that devotional service is the highest. They still are focused on mystic yoga. And therefore, this chapter, even though Ashtanga Yoga is not the yoga process in Kali Yuga, it still is kind of very much relevant. And just wait till we come to verse number 13 onwards. You all are going to get a very big exercise to do today. Shalini?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, if so,
Go ahead, uncle.
if so, why yogis do all this yogas minus bhakti?
Because they ignorance, their root cause of ignorance is not destroyed. Yes, they do understand that we have to get out of the material world, and that's their focus. So Gyan Yogi, their focus is, I don't want to get entangled in the material world. If you look at your yoga ladder chart, and I had given one line statement for Gyan Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, both had the same statement, which says, I don't want to suffer in the world. I don't want to get entangled in the world. But their goal is not devotional service. And on the yoga ladder, if you see the one line statement for Bhakti Yoga, it says, I will serve the Lord the way the Lord wants me to serve him. So there's a vast difference. And therefore, Brahmaji goes on to say, which Shalini herself already saw, that this is too much of an endeavor. And Brahmaji says that Gyan Yogi put so much endeavor and they are beating empty husk. Well, the rice is already taken out and they are beating empty husk, and therefore the Gyan Yogi's only gain is pain. That even after they achieve Brahman effulgence, they still fall down. Everybody on the same page, uncle?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. So all these verses that we'll read from verse 8 onwards They are again pretty straightforward. So verse 8 is on asana, is straightforward. And then verse 9 and 10 is that mind control through pranayam is also straightforward. Mother Chandra Aunty, verse 8 and 9 translation.
Text 8. After controlling one's mind, the sitting postures, one should spread the seat in the secluded and sanctified place. Sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect, and practice breath control. Text 9. The yogi should clear the passage of the vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply, then hold the breath in, and finally exhale. Or reversing the process, the yogi can first exhale, then hold the breath outside, and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances.
Some of you asked about this yoga practice, Ashtanga yoga, being difficult. Mother Chandra Aunty, read verse 9, purport, last paragraph. The answer is right there.
Practicing the yoga system of exercising and breathing control is very difficult for a person in this age. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The name Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. Hare Krishna.
Does that answer the inquiries for everyone?
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you, Prabhu.
Now, results are described that if you do all these above Ashtanga yoga practices, the result is described in verse number 10, 11, and 12. Uncle, verse 10 to 12 translations.
Hare Krishna. Verse text 10. The yogis who practice such breathing exercises are very soon freed from all mental disturbances, just as gold, when put into fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all impurities. Text 11. By practicing the process of pranayama, one can eradicate the contamination of his physical condition, and by concentrating the mind, one can become free from all sinful activities. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association. And by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from the three modes of material attachment. Text 12. When the mind is perfectly purified by this practice of yoga, one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed eyes and see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, baby. So very soon the mind of such a yogi becomes pure, as the example of gold is given, that when you put the gold through fire, it gets purified. Then effect of pranayam is that it destroys the dosha, or the dosha of the body means the misgivings or the bad effects of the body. Dharana, then it destroys sins. Then pratyahar frees one from material association with sense objects. And dhyana frees one from the modes. When the mind becomes steady by practice of this yoga, by looking at the tip, then one should meditate on the form of the Lord. Questions, comments, realizations so far? So here's the crux of the chapter, and here's the crux of our discussion and your practice coming up. So part 2 is verses 13 to 18. Title is Description of Lord's Form for Performing Dharana. So Lord Kapila describes Lord's form used by both devotees of Bhakti Yoga as well as Ashtanga yogis for meditation on the Lord. So what did we read on verse number 12? Said that when you do all the previous steps of Ashtanga Yoga, then you focus on the tip of the nose, your eyes half closed, and you try to see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Kapila from verse 13 onwards till 33 describes the form of the Lord. Now from verse number 33, from verse number 13 onwards, whatever process you follow, whether Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, verse 13 onwards, you can definitely follow because you have to meditate on the Lord. For Ashtanga Yoga, they have these preliminary steps to follow of concentrating or these basic steps before they can start concentrating. For you all Bhakti Yogis, verse number 13 onwards is the meditation. You can definitely do meditation. You all do meditation on a day-to-day basis. So these verse number 13 onwards are going to be your practice for today as well as ongoing. All these verses, 13 to 33, are straightforward verses. The purports describe metaphors. So we'll do a practice that the verse describes, say, a limb of the Lord, and then there is metaphor given in the purport to further use the metaphor to remember the Lord. So these metaphors will further help meditate on the form of the Lord. Therefore, the spiritual endeavor that I am about to give you gives you all an additional opportunity to read all the purports multiple times to find the metaphors. So these verses from 13 to 33, there is nothing for me to teach you. It is for you to meditate. Therefore, this is your exercise for today. So what I can recommend is what you have on screen. You can create a chart like this. Say you have a verse and then a limb or a feature is described. Then the characteristics of the Lord's form are described and then the metaphor is described. We'll practice. Now, for some verses, the characteristics and the metaphor can be overlapping. As soon as we read, we'll realize this. Then I have a second part of the chart as well from verse number 21 onwards, where again the characteristics, where individual limb is described of the Lord, and then the characteristics and the metaphor. So not all verses will have metaphors. So I want everyone to understand what exactly is the exercise that I'm giving you. I will repeat and then can ask question again. So what we will do right now is we will read only the translations from verses 13 to 33 in 2-3 verses at a time. And as part of your spiritual endeavor or the homework for today, you will read all these verses 13 to 33 and the purports and find all these metaphors. There are a lot of metaphors given because this is the meditation for you all. There's nothing for me to teach. This is the meditation. This is the Lord's form described in all these verses from 13 to 33, so that when you do your japa, when you do your sadhana, when you do your services, this becomes second nature and engraved in you, that how you are to remember the Lord. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, can we just write down the columns, Prabhu?
You can write down the columns, whatever
Column
works
heading.
for you. Okay. Gopal Prabhu, read verse 13 and 14 translation.
Hare Krishna. Text 13. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful, lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus, and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands.
So pause here. So you see, I have taken these characteristics and placed on the chart here, that he's cheerful, lotus-like countenance, ruddy eyes, everything coming directly from the verse. If you read the purport, it has little more explanation of the metaphor. Some are overlapping, and we'll come to that. But continue 14.
Text 14. His loins are covered by a shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breast, he bears the mark of Srivatsa, a curl of a white hair. The brilliant Kastuba gem is suspended from his neck. Right.
So all these are meditation for you. This is to remember the Lord. You can remember the whole form of the Lord, or at least limbs of the Lord, and find the metaphor. Now Gopal Prabhu, go to verse 13 purport, and you can read the second paragraph a little bit.
The color of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described here as Nilotpala Dala, meaning that it is like that of a lotus flower with petals tinted blue and white.
So you can pause here, and you can see that this kind of metaphor is overlapping with the verse. So for this particular one, there isn't a direct metaphor. Although, I mean, this can fall in either way, that his body is like the petals of blue lotus. That's his deal. But you will find some other metaphors also up to 33 for all these verses. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, this chart below, what is the next one after 18? Can you just show one?
Yeah, I will show. So after 18, it's very specific to the limbs of the Lord. So I will explain when we reach verse, after we finish 18. Let's first finish the first 18, and I'll come to those verses as well. Okay. So let's start again.
Prabhuji, may I ask a small help?
Yeah.
What I understand, metaphor is something which represent what you places are applied.
Correct.
Can you simplify for better understanding for me?
So when a metaphor comes, so that's the exercise. When a metaphor.
No, what is metaphor itself? I want you to simplify for my understanding better.
Yeah. So the Lord's body is blue. And when you see a blue lotus flower, it should remind you of the Lord's blue body. So the blue lotus flower becomes a metaphor for you to remember the Lord. And therefore, for this particular verse, the characteristics and the metaphor is little overlapping, that the Lord's body is blue, and it's exactly like the blue lotus flower, the petals of the blue lotus flower. But this is not exactly what you are looking for. The metaphor, when it comes in the later verses, we won't read today. It's for you to find out that metaphor, but I have briefly described, if that helps you.
Understood, Prabhuji. I want to say one statement here.
Yeah.
Lord Krishna's temple in South, Guruvayur, maybe you have gone there. And millions of people are coming every year. And throughout it is. At home, we have a flower which is in the form of coons in blue color.
Mhm.
So, Chandranti used to tell us, this is what we should keep it for Lord Krishna.
Mhm.
But now I understand and relate to
Yeah.
the blue lotus. This is a blue conch-like shape. Rarely grows, and we used to keep it. Now I understood the significance of that relating to Lord Krishna's blue body.
Yeah.
Thank you
Very
so
good.
much for
Yeah, very good. And that's exactly a perfect example that how to remember the Lord. You can remember the whole form, but that is, at least for me, is difficult. So you can use the limbs of the Lord to remember, and the metaphors are linked to all these points that even help you further to meditate on the Lord. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
A lot of you are still silent.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Shivangi, 1516 translation.
Hare Krishna. He also wears around his neck a garland of attractive sylvan flowers, and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hums about the garland. He is further superbly adorned with a pearl necklace, a crown, and pairs of armlets, bracelets, and anklets. His loins and hips encircled by a girdle, he stands on the lotus of his devotee's heart. He is most charming to look at, and his serene aspect gladdens the eyes and the souls of the devotees who behold him. The Lord is always eternally very beautiful, and he is worshipable by all the inhabitants of every planet. He is ever youthful and always eager to bestow his blessings upon his devotees.
Can read 18 also.
Okay. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed.
Right. So these are all the components of meditating on the Lord. So verse 18 ended by saying, one should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. So you can use all these components from verse 13 onwards to meditate on the Lord. Everybody on the same page?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Okay, so now you can go to the bottom part from where verse 19 onwards. I mean, verse 19, 20 are in between verses, and we will discuss that part also. So part 3 is verses 19 to 33. Title is Dhyan, meditation on individual limbs of the Lord. So first you had characteristics, and now you also have individual limbs that you can focus on, and there are some relevant characteristics and effect of that meditation described, as well as some metaphor that you all will find. All this again is to enhance your meditation. Now, verse number 19, purport, Prabhupada describes that why hearing and chanting is better than meditation. Gopal Prabhu, verse 19, translation and purport fast pace.
Hare Krishna. Text 19 translation. Thus, always merged in devotional service, the yogi visualizes the Lord standing, moving, lying down, or sitting within him, for the pastimes of the Supreme Lord are always beautiful and attractive. Purport. The process of meditating on the form of Supreme Personality of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same. The only difference is that hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart, because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed, and due to such agitation, the process of seeing the Lord within the mind is interrupted. When there is sound vibrated praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. The hearing process enters into the mind, and the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastimes of the Lord simply by listening to a reading from the Bhagavatam that describes the Lord as he is going to the pasturing ground with his cows and friends. Hearing includes applying the mind. In this age of Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya has recommended that one should always engage in chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita. The Lord also says that Mahatmas, or great souls, always engage in the process of chanting the glories of the Lord, and just by hearing, others derive the same benefit. Yoga necessitates meditation on the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, whether he is standing, moving, lying down, etc. Hare Krishna.
So in the purport, so this is going to be our other homework for today in terms of find reasons as to why the process of hearing and chanting is superior than fixing the mind on the form of the Lord, which of course comes from the verse in the purport we just read, verse number 19. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay. Gopal Prabhu, read 20 also.
Hare Krishna. Text 20. In fixing his mind on the eternal form of the Lord, the yogi should not take a collective view of all his limbs, but should fix the mind on each individual limb of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Okay, very good. So verse 20 said that now you can try to fix on each limb. So 21 onwards, each of the limb is described, like lotus feet, then janu, then thighs, hips, then navel, nipples, chest, neck, arms. Kaumudiki means the club, mala, money or the necklace, then lotus face, eyes, glance, smile, eyebrows, laughter. Everything is described, and you can try to fix on the individual limbs, and there are characteristics and the effect of each of these described, as well as metaphors for this. Okay. Mother Chandra Aunty, verse 21, 22. So I will again do the practice for 21, 22. And then you all can let me know what the plan is. So verse 21, 22 focuses on the lotus feet, because that's where we should start by looking at the lotus feet first, and then going up one step at a time. Mother Chandra Aunty.
Text 21. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of the thunderbolt. A god, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resembles the orbit of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. 22. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its sources in the water that wash the Lord's lotus feet. The lotus feet acts like thunderbolt hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time.
So if you see that I have placed on the chart that under limb it's lotus feet, And then there are characteristics and effect are described that these are the characteristics of the lotus feet. The lotus feet is marked with thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. And effects are described that it dispels thick gloom of one's heart and acts like thunderbolt on the mountain of sin in mind. And you can try to find some metaphors, although again for here also there will be some overlap between these two columns. Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations?
Yes, Prabhu.
So I won't cover rest of the verses. You are anyway going to read all of them to populate this chart, because there's nothing for me to teach you on these. This is your meditation. So I can give you spiritual endeavor for today, and then you can go and use rest of the time to read by yourself all the purports and
Prabhuji,
then try to meditate. Yeah.
I seek some clarification in chapter 8, verses 24 and 25. That is waning moon and waxing moon. I know the dictionary meaning, but I would like to hear from your interpretation, which is simplified.
So you're talking about
After the homework, because every day evening we are 7:30. A group of people we are reading the verses which you have addressed.
chapter 8 Bhagavad Gita, verses 24 onward, 24, 25, 26. So
24.
waning, I'll explain right now. So waning moon and waxing moon is that, the moon has a cycle, that the moon in one cycle, it keeps growing till it becomes the full moon. And in the other cycle, from the full moon, it keeps shrinking till it is not visible. So one of them is called waning, one is called waxing.
I'm not clear, Prabhuji. What I understand in waning
So
is
let
diminishing size.
No, let me explain again. So one cycle is that you see only a tiny part of the moon, and next day a little bigger part of the moon is visible. Then the third day, even bigger part of the moon is visible. And till it becomes full moon. So it runs 14-day cycle till it becomes a full moon from the moon not being visible. So that is one cycle, that from not being visible, it becomes full moon. It grows little by little. And the other cycle is that it's already a full moon, and then you start reducing the moon every day. So on that full moon day, the moon is full. Then the following day, a small portion of the moon becomes not visible. The second day, even little more becomes non-visible till the moon completely becomes non-visible.
Thank you. Understood.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just wanted to add, Uncle might know this, in our Panchang, what we follow, there's two phases called Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. Shukla Paksha is the waxing moon from the new moon to full moon. Then Krishna Paksha is the time period from full moon to new moon.
Yeah. So if you actually read Bhagavad Gita chapter 8 verses 24, 25, 26, one of the verse has these same Sanskrit words of Shukla Paksh and Krishna Paksh.
Thank you, Prabhuji, Gopal Prabhuji. What you said, I am aware, but the definition, the depth of meaning, I understood from you today. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Gopal Prabhu. Okay, homework spiritual endeavor for today. You have a pretty big endeavor. Number 1, identify some of the metaphors used by Lord Kapila to describe the form of the Lord in verses 13 to 33. Second, list reasons why the process of hearing and chanting is superior to fixing the mind on the form of the Lord. Comes from verse number 19. And third, if you have not already read rest of chapter 28. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just to add, this exercise is going to help us, Prabhu, because normally when we go and take darshan of the Lord, we start from his lotus feet and go upwards. But to know in detail what exactly is each limb part representing is, yeah.
To cherish the form of the Lord in
Yeah.
so many ways.
Yeah, very good. Correct. Exactly. Therefore, I said, I have nothing to explain in these verses. These 13 to 33 verses are for you to meditate. Therefore, next time, before you go next time to take darshan, or even if you take live darshan, read these verses in depth, all the purports, and create a chart like what I have on screen. You can create your own. I'm just giving a suggestion of what can work for trying to capture this information. Okay. Any questions, comments, realizations? And uncle is also super excellent that you also read Bhagavad Gita chapter a day following my spiritual master's instruction. Very good. Thank you for doing that also. Are we okay to stop here?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhuji, I want to ask you on 3.2843. I read it. Anyhow, since you have asked us to read, next class I can ask, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's for next class. It's not now. We can discuss next class.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Good
Hare
evening.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.